heard in my head this morning while dropping my son off. He has a robotics competition today. And so on the way back, I had the radio on for him. And so on the way back, I was showing him Word Up by Cameo. But on the way back, there was a little jingle playing on a radio. And in the jingle, I heard these words in my head. That was this nice little medley. And so I kind of put this together as soon as I got back home. This was just about 20 minutes ago, and I've spent the past 15 minutes at the keys just trying to figure out how I wanted it to sound and what it would sound like. And so I think I have it. And so this is a very simple song so far. There'll be more words later on. I just have a few now. But as of now, I'm just calling this affirmation song. And this is a song, especially in our gatherings, that I imagine that people who are dealing with hard times or just need an extra boost of encouragement, a little boost of affirmation. And that's what it is. I want to call it motivation, but this is a little deeper than that. So let's hear what it sounds like. I am overcoming everything that's thrown at me. I am now becoming everything I chose to be. I am now affirming greater power is in me. I am never running from my own capacity. Let's do it again. I am overcoming everything that's thrown at me. I am now becoming everything I choose to be. I am now affirming greater power is in me. I am never running from my own capacity. I'm never gonna live that way no more. Now I know I'm capable of much more, 'cause I am overcoming everything that's thrown at me. I am now becoming everything I choose to be. I am now affirming greater power is in me. I am never running from my own capacity. I'm never gonna live that way no more. I am capable of so much more, 'cause I am overcoming everything that's thrown at me. I am now becoming everything I chose to be. I am now affirming greater power is in me. I am never running from my own capacity. So I hope y'all like that, dealing with my broken voice this morning. But it's a very easy medley, and I think it's highly affirming. And I cannot wait till this is. I hope y'all enjoyed that this morning. How are y'all doing? Happy Sunday, first and foremost. It feels so good to be back with you live, seeing so many of you in here in the chat already. Did y'all like that song? That was a new one that we just wrote this weekend, or this week rather. And just to let you in, for those of you who are not at bridgecity.app yet, that's probably where you need to be, bridgecity.app. Because bridgecity.app, it has something in there, because that's our global campus right now. That's where all of us are at. So for you Sunday Sessions crew folk, I don't know why you're not in there. Bridgecity.app. You see how I threw it in there another time, but get in there at your leisure, because we have clubs in there. And one of those clubs is the Bridge City Music Club. And what I do in that club is I literally, every song that I write that I think was going to be perfect for our gatherings one day, I just share them in there. And I'm encouraging other people to do the same. So if you got 99 problems, but music ain't one, I'd encourage you to check that out. And plus, there's all types of other clubs in there, writing clubs, media clubs, production clubs. If you want to be a part of the production help on this channel, you can join the production club, but you got to be at bridgecity.app. And once you go to bridgecity.app, make sure you introduce yourself when you're in there. All right, again, happy Sunday. Did y'all love that song? I love that song. It's a beautiful song. I love it because I'm biased and I wrote it. But it's something that y'all know I've been spearheading this thing ever since I got in the game, that I think we need to be creating music. We need to be creating the soundtrack of what's next. We need to be creating the soundtrack of our humanity. We need to be creating music that inspires, that uplifts, that elevates, that encourages. I'm a firm believer that people can't do their best work if they don't feel like their best selves. And so a major part of what we want to do at Bridge City is make sure that we're cultivating atmospheres and environments where people can bring their best selves to the table, right? All right, that's good. I'm not going to preach because today is not my day, and we got so much stuff that we have happening today. I was over at West Hill United this morning, and again, if you were at bridgecity.app, our global campus, then you actually got to see a little bit of that, sneak peek. I snuck y'all on in there. But if you're not at bridgecity.app, then dang, you didn't even get the alert or nothing. Yeah, I'm gonna make it stink a little bit because I want you to get your behind in there. Get in here. We left the light on for you. But no, an excellent time. As a matter of fact, I was sitting there watching them. They're an older congregation, but man, they're doing hybrid better than some young churches I know. Like they're doing Zoom and full on-site campus, and they got the cameraman. The cameraman is on the game. Like I was impressed. One of the most powerful moments they had this morning, and we'll get into that a little bit when I bring my guest on, but one of the most powerful moments, they have this sharing moment, which is almost like, I don't know if y'all remember testimony services. How many of y'all went to the churches that had testimony services where people would just get up and say what they're thankful for, what the Lord has done for them? And most time it'll be some exaggeratingly long, devastatingly boring, like depressing story. And then at the end, but God got me. But in this case, instead of that, this was a sharing moment where people could just share a moment of celebration, a moment of concern, or anything like that. And man, they had me in tears, y'all, because that's a really human moment. And I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. This is community. At one moment, I was like, I think I got to take my leaders here now. I got to take my leaders to see what this looks like, because many of our leaders, I'm not going to ramble, but I got to take my leaders. All right, let me get these announcements out of the way because we got some stuff to get into. All right, first, we kicked off our first Giving Tuesday as Bridge City Global in November. And now because of that, I have to send out some mugs because we promise people, anybody that gives a gift over $40, you get mugs. And so guess what everybody did? Everybody gave gifts over $40. So thank you all for that. And now I got to, not be lazy and actually send these mugs out to y'all, which they're really cool mugs. They say people matter on them, all that great stuff. So it looks good. It looks good. All right. We are also doing, as a community, our first Thanksgiving food drive. And so again, if you're not in bridgecity.app, get in there because that's where you're going to see a lot of these announcements in real time. But we're doing our first Thanksgiving food drive as a community. And you take whatever item you can and you donate it to a food drive place that's local to you. We have some ways in the app that can help you find the closest places to you. You take a picture of yourself donating. You can donate as many, as little, however your situation is. But take pictures and then post them in Bridge City Moments in bridgecity.app so that you'll know, so that you'll do that. All right. So that's how we're doing our Thanksgiving food drive. All right. So if you want to participate, that's how you participate. What's rule number one? Go to bridgecity.app. Now, going back to celebrating our first Giving Tuesday, it is still the week of Giving Tuesday. Our Giving Tuesday, what we're doing now is every second Tuesday of the month, we're doing Giving Tuesday as Bridge City Global, encouraging and reminding our members that we need your support. And of course, we don't hound y'all about tithes and offerings and nothing like that. So this is a way we keep our giving non-compulsory, and we just make it celebration. Every once a month, we're going to celebrate giving. But for those of you who still want to participate in Giving Tuesday, maybe you didn't know what was going on. It's Sunday. It still counts. There's a little QR code in the top corner of one of I don't know the left and the right stuff, so I don't know how it's mirrored, but it's in the top corner. Okay, it's the left corner for me, so I don't know which one it is for you, but it's in the top corner. You can scan that QR code and you can give there. All right, next week's guest is Steve. I'm not going to say his last name because I don't want to mess it up, but he's the author of Humanism from the Heart, and I'm really excited about that conversation. And then after that, we'll be starting a new series. November 30th, I'm starting a series called Flight School. Y'all do not want to miss this. Like, I'm not going to lie. over the past few weeks, I've been feeling like preaching in flight school. We about to go there. I think the first message in flight school, the first conversation is going to be check your baggage. I think the first conversation in flight school is going to be check your baggage. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about that in the chat. All right, I've already mentioned Bridge City Clubs, but that is going to be major. That is the new thing for our global campus. I'm really excited about it. Our head of community, Ashley, who I believe is in the chat, has done a wonderful job organizing it, and we're getting ready to roll out open house. So we're going to do an open house week from November 30th to December the 7th. Our community, we're going to be loud, proud, and out there, okay? For a whole week, letting people know that our global campus is open and introducing people to our clubs and how they can get involved. So for all of our club organizers out there, I hope y'all are ready to work y'all asses off, because I'm about to work you. No, we're going to have a great time. And then we're going to end that week with movie night, where we're going to be watching a documentary together. And this one, I got to be honest with you, this is for the builders right here. This is for the leaders. This one is for the people who say, you know what, I want to get off of the sidelines and I want to help build local, tangible community where I am. The documentary that we're going to be watching is going to help you figure out what that looks like, and then we're going to talk about it together as a community. Now, I will warn you, if you are sensitive, if you're still sensitive to religious language, imagery, or tropes, you might want to sit out the first movie night. And I know that might sound a little bad, but I don't want you, like, it's a church documentary. There's a lot of religious language. There's people getting baptized and crying and stuff. And if that's going to make you want to backslide to Jesus, we don't want to do that to you. Okay. Now, second movie night in January, that's going to be Dogma. So definitely be there for that one. All right. I think I have all of my announcements out. Do y'all see how excited I am about everything that's coming up? We have so much that's coming up. Man, y'all need to be on this. Movie night is going to be good. All right. So listen, if y'all are asking, how can I participate in all these great things that are going on with Bridge City Global right now? Where do you need to go? Somebody type it in the chat to let me know y'all been paying attention. Where do you need to go to be a part of the Bridge City Global Campus? You need to go to bridgecity.app. And please do me a favor when you get in there. Make sure you introduce yourself. If you don't introduce yourself in the new member introductions, I'm going to treat you like you don't exist. All right? Jalapeno. Can I get a hell yeah? Can I get a hell yeah? All right, let's go. All right, let's jump into this, y'all. I have a very special guest today that I am excited about. Joe Pittenger truly believes in the power of values-based community to change lives. I yanked this from their website. I'll tell you a little bit more. But as executive director at West Hill United, he enjoys helping create inviting spaces where people of all backgrounds can gather, connect, and talk about what truly matters most in life. Now, for those of you that are hearing that, you should already know. Why I feel such a connection to this brother that I'm bringing on today. Because y'all know that's what our Sunday sessions exist for. We come together on Sundays to talk about the things that matter. Yeah, Monday through Friday content, I go hard unpacking stuff and all of that. But on Sundays, it's for us to come to talk about the things that matter to our humanity and that help us move forward. He's a humanist chaplain with over 15 years of community building experience. He holds a master's degree in practical theology and an MBA. Damn, that's a unique combination. But that's what the next sentence is, a unique blend that means he can discuss the meaning of life one moment and balance the budget the next. Yeah, that's one hell of a good toolkit. In his spare time, Joe enjoys traveling, exercise, reading, and spending time with family and friends. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome up one of my new friends to the stage, who I don't think any of you have met before. Joe, thank you so much for being here with me today, man. Before we jump into our thing, I just want to give you a little time. Can you introduce yourself to our community? Tell us about yourself and how you got here.
Everybody, so good to be here with you. I just gotta say, I love Darante. I met Darante this summer at a conference. We shared a platform together, and it was just an honor to be on stage with him and to share with him. So, what was your question? How did I kind of end up here? Yeah, we just we connected this summer. We both have some similar passions, some similar things that we want to do in this world. And so, yeah, we've just stayed in touch, and I lead a values-based community, and Darante's doing a lot of great work. So we stayed in touch and said, hey, we should share at each other's community sometime. So here we are.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. All right, so for those of y'all who are just joining us, man, Joe is our special guest today, and we're gonna do things a little different. I'm actually gonna do something with Joe that I've never done with anybody else on this platform. I think the only person I would have done it with is Kyle Butler, and if Kyle, if you're watching, I still got to get you back on the show too, man. But what we're gonna do, Joe and I are gonna do a little Q&A, which is what I normally do with my guests. Is I just have some questions for them and walk through them. But we're gonna do that for about 30 minutes, and then after that, roughly around about 12:45, I'm actually going to get out the way. And I'm just going to entrust Joe with this space to share what is on his heart, what's on his mind, what's from his experience. And I think after we get through some of these questions, I think y'all are going to be just as excited as I am to hear what he has to say, unrestrained, without me sitting here guiding the questions. So let's jump into some of the questions. Okay, so first, how many of you are familiar with Greta Vosper? Now, I wasn't. Y'all know I'm aloof on a lot of things, right? So I was not. But when I first met Joe, that was the thing. I think it was you and Jared that I met together, and Jared was the one telling me about Greta, and I was like, oh, okay. And so I had to go like, because everybody was like, oh, wow. And I was like, oh, let me go look who this is so I can be wild too. Because I didn't know. But once I read the story, I was absolutely overwhelmed. I'm almost positive that somebody in this community has to know her story and has to know the story of West Hill. And so let's do that a little bit. Can you give us, for those who don't know, tell us who Greta was and tell us who West Hill was and how we kind of get to you being there.
All right. I'm going to do 75 years of history in like 30 seconds. All right.
I
You
did not
ready?
realize that there's
Yeah.
75 years.
Yep.
Wow.
So West Hill is a congregation that's been around for 75 years. And basically, they've always been a very progressive congregation. But then, roughly about 25 years ago, their minister, who at that time was Greta Vosper, came out and said, she used the terminology non-theist. And,
Mhm.
and people are like, okay, and that's cool, that didn't bother them. And then she started using the term. She went from non-theist to atheist, and there was others who said, I don't know about this, and so basically, make a long story short, it was recommended to the congregation that they come up with a statement of beliefs. Here's what we believe, and they started to do that. And like I said, I'm going to try to do this in 30 seconds. But they said,
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what, this isn't us. And instead, they quickly went to a conversation of what if we just were around values. And so I could go a lot more into it, but Greta helped lead that charge for the church. She was with them for about 25 years. She retired last year, and then I came on. Instead of calling me the minister because they didn't want some of that terminology, they just came up with the
Mhm.
term of executive director to kind of have more of a secular values-based feel to it.
Ooh, now you know what? That was not going to be one of my questions, but thank you for kind of segueing into that because that's something I struggle with, right? Even building Bridge City Global, um, e- we have ministers, but that's just a term that I'm like, I don't know if I ever want to use that term again. And it's not even. I don't have a problem with the term because it's still a term that we use politically. We still use the term in government, but that is an interesting wrestle that communities have to, because like right now I think I just call everybody executives. Like in a normal church it would be campus pastor, associate pastor, music pastor. Nope, for us it's campus executive, music executive type of thing. But even that feels a little hard. So I want to ask you this: what was this transition like for you personally when you came into West Hill? Were you already a person who was of non-traditional belief, of non-traditional faith, or was this something you had to adjust for? Was this something you had to adjust to, or was this a good fit for you?
Uh, Absolutely a good fit. Now, that hasn't always been the case. What I find interesting
Mm,
is the uh, developments that we go through in our life, and then to find an organization that says, yeah, I've been there as well.
yeah.
And so a little bit what I mean by that is I was a minister for, I don't know, a little bit over 10 years.
Wow.
And I back 2016, 2017, I went and spoke at a conference in Denmark, speaking on how to live the most fulfilling life that you possibly can. And here I am, Darante, you have a background in sociology, likewise. And I know what these statistics say that, these Nordic countries, they have some of the highest levels of life satisfaction. And here I am
Mm-hmm.
teaching something, that is taught a lot in my communities and the people that I know. But is that what the statistics are showing? And so, here in these
Yeah.
Nordic countries, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of religious people, but not to the extent that we have here in the States. That gave me
Yeah.
some cognitive dissonance. So I left that conference and I took about 2.5 years in deep study, really reviewing everything that I had learned. I'd gone to seminary. So there's a lot of indoctrination, a lot of different things. And it took me a while to kind of unpeel that and make my own way. And eventually it led to me resigning from my church, which is one of the hardest things I've ever had
Wow.
to do. It's something that I loved. I was a minister. My father's a minister. My grandfather is a minister. But
Oh, wow. Your legacy.
yeah, yes. And so it was, and not to sound, you know, I've lost some people along the way. I actually lost my father when I was younger, and that was a huge loss in my life, obviously. But losing my church
Yeah.
community, which we'll get more into the value of community, losing my church community, it was a loss. It was a death. And so for me,
Man.
that was the beginning of 2019. I resigned. And so here I am, it's been a little bit over 5 years. And to come across a community that shares these same values and what I think the world needs, and for me to be a part of these things, it's such a joy to me, and I'm so
Man.
glad that I get to partner with them.
Oh, it's like that could have been a whole ad, and I just saw that Dark Side Zernial is in the chat. Zernial, that could have been a whole ad right there, just because like the work that the work that I'm trying to do, and I know the work that you're trying to do as well, is to create that infrastructure, that economy, that ecosystem, where for people who want to fulfill that role, that there is space for them, that there are communities that are like, yes, come on, man, I love that, man. So you were already by the time this opportunity came up, you were ready for it. You were already in that space where you've separated yourself from what you used to believe. You're evolving your belief structure. So this is a really good fit for you at the time, which, man, I want to hear more stories like that. I want to hear more stories of ministers, pastors, preachers who wrestled with their faith honestly, came out on the other side and found community that still said, "Hey, well, you can come here and help us do that. You don't have to stay stuck in that." That fills my heart with joy. Now, you taking the baton from Greta, like that must have come both with legacy and expectation. Because again, this is a congregation that's 70 plus years old, and you're a young man. You're a young man stepping into an older congregation. Bruh, talk to us. How does this work for you? How are you navigating this? I'd be terrified, if I was in your shoes, because I'm like, oh man, they had this such a big deal person. So how are you navigating this, man? And how is this
Yeah.
impacting how you see building community?
I don't want to just, give some generic hallmark sounding hippieism, but I will say this, and might sound like a hippieism. I used to be a family minister, and I would have older people who would come to me
Yeah.
sometimes and say, "Oh, I don't really relate to the youth. I can't get involved." And I would say, "What's the most relevant thing in the whole world?" And they would, maybe think about it a little bit. And I would
Mm,
say, "It's love. It's showing that you care. You don't need to know all of their music. You don't need to know, go hang out with them on Friday nights, because that might be a little weird. But could you get their sports schedule and show up to a few of their games? And after the game, say, 'Hey, I'm rooting for you'?" Could you do that? Could you ask them on Sunday mornings, "What's going on in your life? How are you doing? You ever need anything? You let me know." Could you show them that you care? And so all that to say is, I think that's the key, is to be relevant, to show people that you care, that you love,
yeah.
that you care about them, you love them. And so that bridges the gaps. I love the name, Bridge City, building those bridges, building those connections. That's the most important thing.
Yes.
And so in the footsteps of Greta, you asked a question around that. I'm never going to be Greta, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
try. And I honor Greta. I have a close,
Oh, I love it.
friendship with her. We connect. We're actually going to connect this upcoming week, and I have a mad crazy respect for what Greta's done. And actually,
Wow.
not to get into it too much, but you know, part of the science of hope, it says like when we can look at other things that people have done, and then we can emulate that into our own life, into our own leadership. And so I look at Greta and I say thank you for like being a trailblazer,
Yes.
and that gives me courage and that gives me hope. But
Mm.
moving forward, I have to be me. At the same time, I'll put it this way to our people: we
Yes.
honor, we respect our past. We have a great history. So we honor, respect our past. We enjoy where we're at, because sometimes you can get caught in the future and you don't enjoy where you're at. So you respect, honor the past, you enjoy where you're at, but you also have a care and a concern for the future. And it's all those three things simultaneously, and that's kind of
Yes.
where we're at. If that answers, and hopefully that wasn't too complex of an answer
No,
to
it
your
did
simple
perfectly, man.
question.
No. I love it because I mean, in a nutshell, you gave us something that was really profound. And it's like, even though, yeah, there's an age difference between where you are and where your community members are, but you build that bridge by caring for them and by paying attention for them. And it's like that's beautiful. And I'm pretty sure that's a mutual relationship. All right, man, this is and then I just love the aspect because you're coming in under somebody that for this congregation was like dynamite for them, that is very foundational in their history. And I love the fact that you come in with this really balanced view that, oh man, we're going to celebrate and honor that past, we're going to celebrate and honor this now, and now we're also going to be concerned for the future and care for that future. And that's such a beautiful segue. So I want to ask you, for a person who is currently leading a values based community, what have you learned about how connection functions differently when faith is no longer the center of gravity? Like how is your community staying connected without being based on faith and beliefs?
That's a good question. I'm sitting, I don't know if you can see it. I'm sitting at a desk right now, a table, if you might. And why I bring that up, because you're probably not be like, oh, I wonder, what's in front of them. But why I bring that up is when I was in more faith centric communities, we sat at a table, right? People could come to the table and you could share with each other.
Yeah.
It was good, I would say, for the most part. I know that there's different opinions with that. My point in saying this, though, is that I think that table was limited in size. If you didn't believe a certain thing, you can't come to the table. Or
Yes.
maybe you can kind of come sit, but you don't really, really belong, You can kind of
Yeah.
listen, but you don't really, really belong. My point where I'm at now is, on one hand, if I'm being vulnerable, I feel a great sense of loss. I've lost that table. But you know
Yeah.
what? It's I find about beauty is that beauty just doesn't say, "Oh, it's all good." You think about a beautiful picture. There's spots that are dark. There's spots that have more light. There's all the range of depth in a beautiful picture. And so my point is that even though there's this great loss that I have felt, there's great gain, right? And in the
Yeah.
table that I get to sit at now, yes, like our main course of the meal isn't sacred scriptures, but maybe I would even borrow some terminology. I would say there's sacred values, and I use that
Hmm.
word sacred lightly. But take for example things, some of our main values that. At Westhill, we have three main values, three main pillars. We're grounded in humanity. That means we come together, we share the human experience. Not one of us or one book has all the answers. The second thing is we're guided by love. And so, if you want to live a life guided by love, you're welcome at the table. It's really
Come
that
on.
simple. The only thing that we don't tolerate is an intolerance itself, you know? And then the
Yes.
third thing is if you care about being guided by love, you're going to want to grow in wisdom. Love is a verb. So we say, ground in
Hmm.
humanity, guided by love, growing in wisdom. Those are our big things. And so I feel like that's such a wide net that people can relate to. So going back to your original question, if I even remember exactly what it was, it's basically like
Oh,
that
this is
difference
perfect.
between having like religion being like, you know, the focus of the community, the main course of the meal versus values. And values, religion can offer a lot of good, but it also can have a downside where it can be divisive. It's not
Yes.
always inclusive. And that's the thing of values is values can be very, very inclusive.
Yeah. Oh, I love it, man. Well, I think the last conversation you and I had, and I know I've mentioned it to my community since then. I told you I was going to steal it, but I did give you credit. But when you
No, it's
said the
all good.
words, man, it's so accurate, and it's what we as humanists really need to be embodying, and that's the idea that we have the bigger gospel. And that's why I love the idea of that. You know, like our table is bigger now.
Yep.
It's no longer harder to, it's no like no like we don't have these long questionnaires anymore that say, well, do you believe this, or do you accept this, or do you acknowledge this? All of that is gone now. We have the bigger gospel. We can now say, come on in where the table is spread and the feast of humanity is going on, you know. Like
Yes. Yes.
that feels so wonderful, just to even to hear. And you know, that's my thesis, is that it's really that easy, that when people know they have the option to connect over values other than other things, I think it's a relief. I think it's a relief for people. I think when, as we build more communities like that, as people like you and I launch communities all over across the globe, that we're going to see that relief of just that, finally, this place where I can just be myself. Have you noticed any patterns or moments where connection deepens or weakens as the community has continued to evolve?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, you know, this is a community that's you know, been around for 75 years. And of course, you know, different people have joined it at
Yeah.
different times in the journey. The last 25 years for it, going from being you know, more belief centric to value centric. I mean, think about, you know, if you've gone through something difficult with somebody, don't get me wrong, like those difficult things, they can be difficult. You know, that's the definition of it. But I mean, think
Yeah.
about going on a road trip and you know, you just need to drive, let's say, an hour somewhere, and you know, you drive it with someone, and you get there. You know, you might not really remember that, you know, years from now. But let's say some crazy things happen along that road trip. You know, you get a flat tire and you don't have a spare tire, and you know, I'm just kind of
Mm.
flying off the cuff here, but you know, someone pulls over and you're like, oh, is this person gonna be creepy? But they end up being really nice, you know, and you know, all like, you know, it's just a wild ride kind of thing. Yeah, and we'll get
Yes.
more into this later and what I'm going to talk about. But when you have a shared emotional connection, that's huge. And so people have gone through difficult things. I'll give another example for this. I love climbing and hiking, and
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, like I love a good day on the mountain, you know. But some of the memories that have been forged in my mind is when the storm clouds have rolled in. It's not saying I invite them, and even when the storm
Yeah.
clouds don't roll in, sometimes it's difficult, but yet there's also a beauty and a depth to just, you know, being on the mountain. And so people, they've gone on this journey, you know, around the mountain together, and different people have joined at different times. So yes,
Right.
there's definitely been a lot of strengthening. And I'll say one other thing. When you
Yes.
come together and you talk about shared values, and this is what makes, you know, places like Bridge City so valuable. When you
Yeah.
come together and you talk about the things that matter most in life, I mean, if you talk to somebody, you know, let's say the topic is empathy, and then you break up into groups and you talk about a couple people that you're struggling to have empathy for, or you talk about that person when you were 19 years old who gave you a great deal of empathy and it forever changed your life, and you share that with someone, you're going to connect. You're going to have
Yeah.
a greater depth. And that's, I think, the beauty of what places like Bridge City and West Hill, the community that I lead, that offers. I'll
Yes,
leave it at
sir.
that.
Man, I'm loving this. Okay, so I'm gonna get a few leadership questions in before I let you go, and that is my first one is from your experience. What's one principle you'd pass on to anyone leading a new secular or values-based community today? If someone is whether they're stepping into something new or building it from scratch, what's one principle that you think they really need to have in their toolbook?
This is where the minister and my seminary education meets my MBA. um, and if I can only give one thing, look, I get it. You got to have a balanced budget. You have to have the right governance, the right leadership in place. That's cool. That's good. You need all of that. And I'm going to sound super generic in this, but lead with love.
Oh,
Um, if what you're doing isn't helping people love themselves, love each other, love our entire world in a better way, who cares? You
man.
know,
Yeah.
honestly, like
Yes.
who cares? Like if you get people to come, great, but
Yep.
who cares if it's not really making an impact on people, and so
Yes.
if one thing, lead with love. And so for leaders, what does that mean? And once again, I don't want to sound generic,
No,
but
this is
to
good.
look at things through a loving lens. So to literally
Mhm.
put yourself in other people's shoes, the best that you can. I know that's difficult to do,
Come
but
on.
think about
Yeah.
the people who are coming and being a part of things. So even right now, as I speak, I want to have all of you who are listening now and in the future. I want to have you in mind, and
Yeah.
honestly, when you look at the science of what wisdom is, there's been a lot of research, and one of the greatest things, one of the biggest pieces of what wisdom is, and they've been able to define it and have research around this, is to have humility and empathy. And so those are some
Yes.
very loving characteristics, to put yourself in other people's shoes, to have one another in mind. So starting with love, and that goes through all of our systems that we have. So I'm going a little bit more in depth, but I want to give some meat to this. I mean, think about it,
Oh
even
man.
from like a marketing perspective. If we look at it as leaders, it's just, oh, let's just market it and grow our numbers. Honestly, who cares? Once again, you know?
Right.
But if we look at it in a lens of what we have is an incredible product, what we have is
Yes.
something that makes a difference for us and those who come and join with us. And out of love, I want to share it. So, hey,
Oh,
we need to have a stronger marketing budget, not to just get numbers, because what we do is so important because it changes lives. It
come
brings
on.
fulfillment to people. It meets needs. And so you see the difference between looking at just through like a strict business lens. And so once again, not to sound generic, lead with love, but
No, this is
love is
good.
such it's such a deep, profound thing. If you care about love, you're going to study it, get to know it, and you can put it right in the DNA of all that you do as an organization.
Oh man, that's beautiful. See, now if y'all can't tell, this is why I fell in love with this brother from the first moment that I met him. Because this is like, here's the thing, you can tell when someone's doing what they do because they believe other people need it. You can tell when people are doing what they do when they believe, when you can tell when they sincerely believe that this generates value for other people. Like, oh my goodness, because that's like that's where that love, that's where that real love comes from. You don't have to train evangelists then. People become evangelists on their own just because they love that community so much or they love what you're doing so much. And that's, man,
If
that's powerful.
if I could share a
Yep,
little
go
bit
ahead.
more of that, I think
Yes.
if one is to truly love, one will get to know. I mean, imagine a
Yeah.
couple who first starts dating and they say, I kind of like this person, but they don't ever want to spend time together. They don't want to
Mhm.
get to know the other person. That's
Come
not
on.
even for a couple that first starts dating. I mean, imagine, a couple who's been together for a long time,
Come on. Yes.
those of you who are listening, I mean, think about it. if you're in a relationship and that person comes home at the end of the day, a lot of times you generally say, how has your day been? Even though you know
Mhm.
so many things about them, you want to be caught up. Doesn't even have to be if you're in a romantic relationship. Say there's a friend that you've known your whole life, right? And
Yeah.
you haven't seen them. Let's say it's only been 2 weeks. You get together, you go have a drink or
Come on.
whatnot. You're still probably going to say, "Hey, what's been going on?" And you might not know everything about them, but because you love them, you care about them. To love is
Come
to
on.
know, and to know is to love. So you want to know. I hadn't talked to Darante in a little bit, and we connect earlier this week, and I
Mhm.
say, Darante, what's been going on? Because I don't know current Darante. I know Darante from 2 versions ago. Take that
Yes.
with leadership now. Uh,
Come on,
to
man.
love is to know, it's to gain knowledge of the systems and practices and the things that we do, and to get to know and to be the best that we can with those things,
Come
and
on.
to have love at the forefront of what we do, and to have a well-balanced knowledge and all those things. But you have to start with love. All right. Thanks for letting
Oh
me
no.
go on a rant there.
No, dude, you are on it, and I love it. It reminds me of something that we used to train church planners to do, and I think the secular community, humanist community, can learn from this as well. And this goes right along with what you said. Before we would start a church in a city, like almost a year before we'd even start a church there, we train church planners to go to that city and just walk around the city, find places where people are,
Mm,
just walk and pray, find conversations to get to know the people. And the whole point of that was to get to know your city. We had to add the
yes.
prayer part, so we made it feel like you were doing something spiritual, but the whole point was to get to know your city, to get to know the people in your city, to get to know the problems of your city, to get to know the opportunities in your city, the things that you can praise about your city. But that's leading from that love. Before you get there and start preaching those people and telling them what they should do, actually get to know them, actually figure out who they are, what they want. And that's like when the churches that adopted that type of model did incredibly well, right? And so, like, for those of you who are community builders out there and you're trying to figure out, like, what do I need to do? I think Joe
Mm,
just gave you a really good starting place, and that is lead with love. If you're
yes.
wanting to build a community in that city, start loving that city, man. Start loving that community. Get out there, start meeting people. Yeah, go ahead. I see you.
No, no, no. What you're saying is right on. Here's the key elements. You start with love, and then because you
Hmm.
love, you get to know. And when you get to know, then you know what the needs are. And when you can
Yes.
meet the needs, you're putting that love into action, and it's cyclical in nature. So,
Yes. Oh, I love it. All right. So I'm gonna get ready to turn you loose here and let you, like,
whew,
just really just give it to us, man. And then we're already there. Were there any questions that we didn't get to that you wanted me to get to?
I am good, and I am curious. Is
Okay,
there?
perfect.
Can people ask questions from online, or do you do that later on, or if not, that's
What
okay
we
too.
They'll be in the chat. You can see them. If someone asks a question, if you want to address it while you're going, you can. If not, at the end, I'll roll back through them and we'll look at them that way. So I'll let that be on your preference.
Excellent, excellent.
Awesome. I'm going to throw you back up now.
All right, everybody. It is so good to be with you. I want to give a quick apology. I sent these slides to Darante, and I think that either the format I had them in somewhere along the way, it really messed it up. I wasn't trying to be fancy and put like one letter below the rest, but somehow the formatting got messed up. But y'all have creative minds. I'm sure that you can see what I'm trying to say here. I'm trying to give the word connection. So I want to start out with this. I'm holding my journal. Now, I'm not going to open it up because we don't know each other that well yet, right? But in here is my story. It's my story. We all want to have a good story, right? We all want a story that is connected, that's in line with who we are and what we want to be, that's in line with this world and just all that is. We want to feel connected. What I'm going to do I almost said this morning, I've been here online for a long time now. It's now afternoon. What I want to do this afternoon is I want to talk about this larger story that we can be connected to. And then I'm going to bring it inwards to us, people like you and I, and then I'm going to bring it back to the community. So I'm going to say that again. I want to make sure you caught that. We're going to start with this larger story, and we're going to bring it inward and then to community. I know it's a weird way of going about it, but we're going to see if that works. One of my favorite stories, and I'm going to have it up here on the screen. Neil deGrasse Tyson was asked, in an interview, what is the most astounding fact that you know? Think about it. This is Neil deGrasse Tyson. This person has studied the vastness, the extremities of the universe. And someone asked him, what's the most astounding fact out of everything in the whole universe, of all the things that you know? And here's what Neil said back in this interview. He says, and I'll just start out by saying, this is a little bit longer, but bear with me, all right? And he starts out with kind of this larger story of how things are made, and then he brings it back to you and I. So bear with me. Put on it's story time. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you have to grab popcorn, whatever, for this story, make it more interesting, go for it. He says, the most astounding fact is the knowledge that the atoms that comprise life on Earth, the atoms that make up the human body, our human body, they are traceable to the crucibles that cook the light elements into heavy elements in their core under extreme temperatures and pressures. In case you're like, whoa, what did he just say? That's a lot of words. He basically just said these atoms that are in us, they are part of this whole thing that we're a part of. He goes on, he says, these stars, the high mass ones among them, they went unstable in their later years. They collapsed and then exploded, scattering their enriched guts across the galaxy. Guts made of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and all the fundamental ingredients of life itself. All these ingredients, they became part of gas clouds that condense, collapse, form the next generation of solar systems. Stars with orbiting planets, and those planets have the ingredients for life itself. If we could advance, I think, 2 slides here. And this is when it turns back to, you and I. Once again, Neil deGrasse Tyson is asked the most astounding fact. He talks about how our universe has been made, and he turns it back to us. And he says, and I love these words, he says, very poetic, so that when I look up at the night sky, and I know that, yes, we are part of this universe. We are in this universe, but perhaps more important than both of those facts is that the universe is in us. When I reflect on that fact, he says, I look up and many people feel small because they are small and the universe is big. But I feel big because my atoms, they came from those stars. There's a level of connectivity. Next slide. There's a level of connectivity. That's really what you want in life. And I'm going to add to this a little bit here. Isn't that what we all want? Isn't that why we're here? Why the technology that's been created? This is amazing. People have taken elements from our earth and put them together in ways I don't even understand. And this is why we can do what we're doing right now. We want to have that connectivity. There's a level of connectivity. Tyson says, that's really what you want in life. You want to feel connected. You want to feel relevant. You want to feel like you're a participant in the going on of activities and events around you. And that's precisely what we are. Just by being alive, we are connected. Now, we don't always feel that way, right? We don't always feel connected. This morning, I want to talk about how we can feel more connected. Here in a minute, I'm going to go how we can feel more connected to ourselves, and then how we can feel more connected as communities. So our next slide here, I want to bring up some evidence, because it's one thing, I used the word hippieisms earlier. It's one thing to say, oh, everybody love everybody, and, we're all connected, But this is what the science is showing. One, we are connected, but that we need to be connected. It is vital. And I don't play around with that word. I don't use it lightly. It is vital. Some different evidences of this. Number one, the Harvard study of adult development. This is a study that's been going on for over 90 years, starting in the 1930s in Boston. It has followed people from different groupings, different demographics. And basically what it has found, it's been trying to answer this question: what leads to the good life? What leads to life satisfaction? A life that is worth living, that has fullness, that has vibrancy, that has energy to it. And what they have found, no matter what circumstances, the number one thing that leads to a good life, as their former director of the study once said, George Valiant, he once said, happiness equals love. The good life equals love. And what he meant by that, as he goes on to say, happiness equals love, full stop. He goes on to say, it's those relationships. It's the connections that we build when we feel connected with ourselves, with others, and with our world at large. That is the number one indicator. When the social science looks at, after, studying people and their children and their grandchildren and people from different demographics, connection. The second thing that I bring up as evidence this need, oxytocin. It's this feel-good hormone, chemical. And when we have sense connection, when we hug somebody, when we have intimacy, when we have shared relationship, a strong connection, oxytocin is released. And they call it the bonding hormone. Isn't that interesting? Literally, in our makeup is this chemical, this hormone that helps us bond and feel connected. We need this feeling. It is vital. And here's the reason why. This third evidence I give, it's called the social brain theory. Social brain theory has been hypothesized by psychologist Dr. Daniel Lieberman. Dr. Daniel Lieberman in his research shows how our brains have evolved. And because of our social abilities, our abilities to connect, oxytocin being released in the brain, feeling this feel-good hormone, we are able to survive. One of the things that I found so interesting, I mean, literally like blew my mind. We are all probably familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's, the physiological needs are at the base of the pyramid. And so those physiological needs, we need food, water, and shelter. But then right above that, the next need, Maslow theorizes, is to feel belonging, to feel acceptance. But Dr. Daniel Lieberman, he says, yes, that is true. But he makes an argument, what if the social need is actually more important? Because without this evolution of our social needs and fulfilling social needs in our mind, would we survive? He gives the case of an infant. An infant is born and its parents senses the needs that this infant has, that it needs food, water, shelter, safety. And so they take care of it. And in the cases where they feel like they can't, other people generally step up and they take care of it in whatever ways that they can. Think about it from the lens of the infant. The infant realizes on some level it needs food, water, shelter, safety, all these different things. But how does it get that? It cries out, it communicates, it lets them know, it tries to build connection. And actually a lot of difficulties and trauma can come when there isn't that healthy connection. The fourth thing, and we're going to go a little bit more into this here in a second. The fourth evidence I give, connection theory. This is some research by Dr. Christine Klussman, and she has built what's called the Connection Lab. And we're going to get a little bit more into that. But basically, the basic premise is when we have greater connection, this is what I've said in these different theories, when we have stronger connection with ourselves, with others, with our world at large, the statistics show that it's better for our well-being. All right, this is all, good, it's all, it's easy to say, but how do we do this, right? How do we put this into action? I'm going to start here with a quote, and then we're going to talk about a self-connection and some actual practical steps that we can take. And as I talk about self-connection, I'm going to actually relate it to us as a community, because as a community, we need to be able to relate to ourselves. And then I'm going to get into what the science shows of how we can have good community connection. And I'm actually going to take that and talk about it as a community, but then also as an individual, how we can relay that back to ourselves. So first, a quote from Dr. Christine Klussman. She says, life is about relationships, right? The relationships we have with ourselves, with others, with our communities, the earth and life itself. Now, I've been talking kind of quick, but I want to slow down for this one line. If you have one main takeaway, I think this would probably be it. Our experience of life is defined by the quality of these relationships. When it's all said and done, right? That's what matters. She continues and she says, the path to being a better worker, partner, or parent begins by discovering and following our own truth first and foremost. When you are right with yourself, you're right with the world. We started about the larger narrative, right? I gave that quote by Neil deGrasse Tyson. But it has to start here. If we're not feeling it here, we're just not going to feel it, right? The others can't feel it for us. The world can't feel it for us. We have to have that own sense ourselves. And so then she states this final line here. This is why connection theory starts with connection to the self. It's so important. All right, I'm going to have on the screen here this theory of self-connection. To break it down, there's three main pillars in this theory that Dr. Klussman gives. One is we have to have awareness of ourself. If we could go to the next slide, I'll just kind of highlight it. So awareness of oneself, that's the first thing. And so how do we have awareness of ourselves? It's kind of what I was talking about earlier. It says the ancient Greeks have said, know thyself, right? Well, how do you get to know thyself? Well, once again, it's one of those things that are easier said than done. But it's to listen, to hear yourself out. You ask yourself, I'm going to use my name here, Joe, what do you need? How can you best love yourself? It's to spend time with yourself, to get comfortable in your own skin. Some of the practices that I do, and I'm not saying it's what you have to do, I'm sure you have different practices, is I will go for walks a lot. In fact, the Stoic philosophy, they had this teaching around that a walk, it's not going to fix all of your life's problems, right? But they said there's not many things in life that a walk won't make at least a little bit better. And why is that? Walking can be a grounding technique because literally your feet are hitting the ground. And a lot of times when you go for a walk, you're taking out those distractions. You're spending time with yourself. Other ways of getting to know yourself, journaling, something I also try to practice. I also do mind mapping. Some people do meditation. Some people will put on music. I mean, how many of you can relate to that? Just going for a drive and listening to music. It might be a song that you've heard 1,000 times. But really what it's doing, it's helping you consider your life, to think. It's helping you build that self-connection, to have an awareness of yourself. So that's the biggest thing. And then the second thing, though, the second main pillar, is to have an acceptance of oneself based on this awareness. I have my journal here. I had a pen until I just threw it there. I have a pen. One of my friends, I once heard him speak, Dave Warnock, and Dave once said while he was speaking somewhere, he said, at a certain point in your life, you have to take the pen and you have to write your own story. You have to write your own story. You have to accept who you are, what you want, and what you need in life. You have to have awareness of yourself, what you want, what you need, and then you have to accept that, and you have to write your own story. I find it interesting that the word author and authentic share the same root. Now, to get nerdy, they come from different languages and different etymologies, but they still share that same root. So it's a reminder to myself, if I truly want to author my life, then I need to be authentic. Here's a little bit more what I mean by that. A lot of people, they're writing a story, but is it their story? Is it the story that society wants for them, that their family wants for them, that maybe some of their close friends want for them? Reflect on that in your own life. Are you writing your own story? And this is what I think, is one of the strong values of values-based community. So we're trying to write a story based on these values, such as wisdom and open-mindedness. We're not just trying to settle. For example, in comparison, some communities meet under religion, and it's these stories. I mean, it's basically, and I don't mean to say this disrespectfully, but a lot of times it's peer pressure by dead people. It's people saying, oh, this is the way things have always been. Let's continue that. But maybe those things don't work anymore. It doesn't mean that those things don't have any value, but what it means is we have the power. We have the autonomy. We have the agency, which agency is one of the big things in correlation of our own health and life satisfaction is when we take the agency, when we have awareness of ourselves and we accept ourselves, our values. And then that third thing, when we have alignment, and I'll get into that in a second. I want to share a quote here. It's on the next slide. It's by Brene Brown. Owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. I'm going to say that one more time. Owning our story and loving ourselves through that process, it's the bravest, and I emphasize that, it's the bravest thing that we ever do. Once again, a lot of times, and as individuals and as communities, we can write the story of those who came before us. But at some point, we have to take our own pen and we have to start writing it for ourselves. And Brene Brown uses the word brave in there. It's the bravest thing that we'll ever do. You heard me earlier talk about love. I think that is the most important thing. But love, just one word. Love can often go by other names and needs to go by other names for it to have true depth and true meaning. Love is often called justice. Love is often called wisdom. Love is often called courage. You think about it this way. I mentioned etymology earlier. The word courage, the root of it is cor, core, and it comes from the Latin word, which core, cor, which means heart. And think about if for someone to truly live, their heart has to pump blood into all of their body. So if you want to really, truly live, to truly experience life, you have to pump love into everything that you do. You have to have core. You have to have heart. You have to have courage. Once again, owning our story, writing our story, and owning what we do is the bravest thing that we will ever do. All right, the next point here, and I've kind of already said these things, but in this theory of self-connection, it says that alignment, the third pillar, alignment of one's behavior with this awareness. And this goes right into what I'm saying with courage. The first thing, have an awareness. Second thing is acceptance. And then to align it. Love is a verb. Action. It's an act. It's not something that you just sit down with. It's something that you do. It's a verb. That's easier said than done. It can be difficult to do. And I will say too, I think that's where the life is. I kind of laugh a little bit because it's hard sometimes. I keep on mentioning some of the Stoic philosophy. And there's this teaching in Stoic philosophy that basically said, if this is where you want to be, and this is where you currently are, the space in between is where the struggle and the pain and the regret can live. This is where you want to be, and this is where you are. And in between is that struggle. Don't get me wrong. Now, this is why you have to choose a healthy where you want to be. You have to have realistic expectations. But you have to come into alignment of who you are and who you want to be as a human. There's another quote that I want to share with this point here. It goes like this. There's no greater agony, that space in between, than bearing an untold story inside of you. So this morning, I ask you, what story do you need to write? What story does Bridge City need to write? And if we could actually go back to those 3 points again, if we're able to go back. I've talked about this as an individual, but I want to ask, what about Bridge City? What about the communities that we're a part of? Do we have, number one, awareness of ourselves? Do we know who we need to be? And the science of goal setting, the biggest criteria is to have clarity, to know what you want and what you need. Because if you're aiming for something, but you don't know what you're aiming for, you're not going to get there. I mean, imagine a plane taking off and it has no idea where it wants to go. Maybe it needs to go from New York City to LA, but if it starts heading, over the ocean to London, it's going to take a lot longer to get to where it needs to go. So have clarity as a community, have awareness of ourselves, know what we want, what we need. The second thing is to have acceptance. So think about this community. Look, we can't be every community. We can't be, we can't do everything. So what do we value? What is our special place in this world? What can we offer people? I talked about empathy. What are we uniquely qualified to do to help people? So let's do that, and let's do that boldly. And then that third thing, as a community, to have alignment of one's behavior. And that's where the work is, but that's also where the life is. That's where the zest is. Earlier, when Darante and I were talking, I mentioned just, climbing mountains. You have a goal, you have an aim, and then you bring yourself in alignment with that. It's difficult, but it's a journey. Most times I've been on the mountain, I don't say, oh, why do I have to do this? Why am I out here? I say, I get to be on the mountain today. And I get to usually do it alongside other people. I get to be a part of this process, a part of this journey. And even when it's difficult, those sometimes are the things that I remember the most. There's a certain depth and beauty to it. So I urge you, connect with yourself. If you want to connect to the larger narratives of our world and then to communities, I'm not saying you can't do that if you're not self-connected, but it's going to go a lot further. Connect with yourself. Now, I know I've gone on a little bit, but I want to go a little bit into the science of connection as a community. And so if we could actually go to the next slide here. There we go. A sense of community theory. And we'll go through this a little bit quicker. This is a theory David McMillan and David Chavez that they created in the 1980s, but it's a very well-respected still to this day. So for people to have a sense of community, and so just as I mentioned the theory of self-connection and what that means for us, and then I went into what it means as a community, I'm actually going to kind of do this the opposite way. I'm going to talk about what it means for us as a community, but also how we can relate this to our own life. So number one, membership. Now, I'm not talking, oh, here's your membership card, because I mean, if we want a membership card, we could go to Costco and pay the $50 or whatever it is a year. That's cool and all, but does that really connect at a deep level? I mean, I love the samples, don't get me wrong, but it's a little bit more than that. Membership, like what Maslow said, that we belong, that we are accepted. And once again, this is the value of values-based community, is that the table is big, the table is wide, that basically the only thing that we don't tolerate is an intolerance itself, that all are welcome, that we are radically inclusive. And we want people to come and share and be a part of things. So that's the biggest thing, membership. The second thing for people to feel a sense of community is influence. And people need to feel influence. So at the community, and I'm going to use a kind of a table analogy again, at my community that I lead, I will often say circles over rows. What do I mean by that? It shouldn't just be, like someone teaching and people listening and then they go. It needs to be conversation, needs to be dialogue. Basically, people need to have a place at the table, and not just a table where one person's doing everything, but where people have true, genuine community. So a circular table. And that gives influence. And it's not just, that people can talk, but that they also have influence on leadership. That's what is so amazing about the democratic process. But people need to have influence. Now, I said I was going to connect this back to our lives. So before I keep going on, I'm going to, talk about these first 2 points, and then I'll go into point number 3 and 4. What about our own lives? Membership. Do we accept ourselves? It's like the self-connection theory that I said. Do we know who we are, and do we accept it? What we want and what we need? Do we give ourselves influence? Do we trust our voice, Or are we just writing the story that other people want us to write? Membership and influence. The third and fourth point here. Number 3, fulfillment of needs. People, when they come to community, they need to have a fulfillment of needs. So when Darante said, if I could give one word of advice to leaders in this space, fulfillment of needs. Love people. Get to know them and get to know what their needs are, and then try to meet those needs. If people don't feel that their needs are being met, they're not going to be a part of things. They will vote with their feet. And so fulfillment of needs, this is what we need to feel and to actually happen. And this is the power of coming together with circles in mind, that we can connect with each other, that we can talk about the things that matter, that we can talk about how we can feel the most connected in our lives to ourselves and to each other. And then we can have dialogue and we can say, hey, this is how I feel connected. These are the practices that I do, or this is how I don't feel connected, or this is going on in my life. That we have a fulfillment of needs. And one of those biggest needs is our social connections. The fourth thing is shared emotional connection. In my community, we have a sharing time. For this being one of the big things, is that we want people to share. We want people to say, this is what's going on in my life. Here's where I'm at. This is the good. This is the bad. And so when we have these shared emotional connections, people are going to feel a greater sense of community. And this is going to be cyclical. It'll go back to number 1. They're going to feel that membership, that they belong and accepted because they are heard. And then once again, they will feel that they have influence, that they have voice, and then that they'll feel that their needs are being fulfilled and that they can next time share even more in that emotional connection. We have to have that. And that's what's so important about having a place and a space where we can talk about the biggest things of life. Don't get me wrong. Other community things, they're very important. I'm a part of a running club, and that's really good. But having an intentional place where we can talk about the things that matter most in life, that is valuable and should be protected and should be given energy to. All right, I've said a lot of things. My overall this morning is I want you to feel a sense of connection, to really take importantly the sense of connection that you feel to your story, to what you are writing, to yourself, and then to the larger communities that you're a part of, and in the intentional values-based communities as well. And then to the world around us, that you get to know, that you accept the story that you want to write, that you need to write, and you come within alignment with it. I want to close with one of the quotes that I had earlier, and it's this: life, it's about relationships. The relationships, and we could even say connections, we have with ourselves, with others, with our communities, the earth and life itself. Our experience of life is defined by the quality of these relationships. So I leave you with that. Invest and take care of all those relationships. Thank you for letting me be a part of today. I hope you feel a greater sense of connection.
Wow. Okay, first, before I talk to Joe, everybody that's watching, whether you're watching now or later, I want you to recognize that what you're looking at is proof that there is a sleeping army of people out there like Joe who are on the fence about their faith right now. And the only reason they're still stuck on that side is because they're afraid that on this side, they won't be able to serve and love people the way that they do now. But I am telling you, contrary to what we like to think about preachers out there, and you've seen some on my channel, you've seen Drew, you've seen Kyle, and now you've seen Joe. And what you're finding out is that there is a whole army out there hungry to serve and love people. The work we're doing, building community, Bridge City and West Hill, that is setting the stage for those people to break free. We need more people like Joe. I think Dark Light said over and over again, he says, Darante has to be happy as hell over there. And I am. The whole time I'm just like cheesing because this is a very surreal moment for me. This is the thing that I've been preaching since I've launched our Sunday sessions. And so to see someone else come on our space and deliver so passionately, so effectively, man, if I was still a believer, I'd say it's the Holy Ghost. Hallelujah. But since I'm not a believer anymore, we'll just say jalapeno.
It's
Jalapeno
the
and hell yeah.
oxytocin getting
That's right.
released
It's
in the brain. Yeah.
there it is.
Hey, if I could say one more thing too, and this goes
Yes.
back to the value of values-based communities. Right now, in our religious landscape here in the U.S., and I'm sure many of you are aware, is that
Mhm.
there are more nuns, people without any affiliation, or
Yes.
just even the religious landscape, however you want to, the philosophical landscape, how people view the world. It's ever so changing, and yet there is a loneliness epidemic, right?
Yep.
And so for so many years, in both good and bad ways, the church has filled that space. We're at a unique opportunity, right? We're at a unique crossroads, right?
Yes.
Where places like Bridge City, West Hill, other communities like us, we have a chance, we have potential. But I'll say this: my brother's a baseball coach, and we've had conversations about players that he has that have potential. Potential don't mean nothing
Come on,
unless there's
sir.
action behind it. And so I say that to encourage you. Be a part of things. I mentioned the science of goal setting. It's some different elements in it to be clear, but another element is to commit and have consistency. So I make the call. I ask you to really to consider how can you be a part of the movements that are happening, because it's good not just for things like Bridge City and West Hill, but
Mhm.
call me crazy, call me idealist, but I think that there's potential to change and affect culture on a much bigger level.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just to piggyback off of that, I have one quick question for you, and then there was a
Yes.
question in the chat that I'll bring to you. How many people does it take to do what y'all do at West Hill every weekend?
I'd like to give the generic answer. It takes all of us.
Yeah.
I mean,
But that's real. Like when you say that,
yeah,
that's real because anytime one person is missing, it's felt.
yes. So here, here's what I would say with that. And I don't just mean to give some generic general answer, but
No.
I think that you can have values-based community with just two people.
Yeah.
However, now let me say is we have somewhat of a production with West Hill. We have
Mhm.
music. We meet hybrids. So we have people joining in online where people can actually speak online as part of our gathering and whatnot. But I guess my point is, I really feel that we need values-based communities. I think I'll put it this way. I think that there needs to be people who provide basic structure, and
Yeah.
out of that structure, you can grow so many good things. And
Yep.
and, and so I think that once basic structure is provided, I mean, literally, I envision a world of values-based community where it's a couple people meeting in a coffee shop.
Mhm.
And it might just start out as a couple, but it's I don't know if I'm answering your question the best, but
No, this
I
is
think it
good.
can be a very small number. However, and I think here's the key is that once again, when I talked about like the science of goal setting,
Yeah.
rather than maybe the quantity, is we need people who are committed and consistent. That's
Yep.
the big things. And when that happens, I think quantity will happen. But it does take, now I will say, it does take a good amount of people if you want to do it with great quality. So
Yes, I love it. I love it. Okay, so we had one question that came from the chat, and this is actually from Ashley. She's our head of community with Bridge City, and so she says,
hey,
"Joe, do
Ashley.
you, yay?" She says, "Joe, do you think honoring older traditions harms or uplifts modern day society?"
That's a great question. I think if it's healthy, then it's a
Mm,
great benefit. And I
that's
think
good.
about, like I kind of use the term family, I'm not saying, like, people meet in values-based community that we're exact family. However, maybe there's argument made when you connect with people over like the things that matter and you share those values. Whew, those are some strong ties. I think
Yes.
about like my family. And if I went into my family gathering, we're about ready to celebrate Thanksgiving, and Grandpa starts talking. I said, Grandpa, I don't want to hear that. you like he's
Yeah.
telling a story from his good old days. Now if he goes with it from an approach of like, oh, the world's going to hell in a handbasket, let me tell you about it from my day, that's not healthy. But if he
Right.
talks about it and he says, oh, we used to do this, years ago at Thanksgiving, I love this. And then he says, tell me what's going on in your life, and there's
Yeah.
like this healthy balance. It's kind of what I said earlier about honoring and respecting our past. It doesn't mean that we even agree with everything, right?
That's right.
But
Yeah.
it's taking those good parts and it's continuing on, and so it's honoring, respecting the past and those threads of those good things. It's being, I'll put it this way, one of the greatest things that we can do. And, I talked about being the author of our story and authenticity.
Yeah.
Authenticity comes with honesty. So it's not saying, like, let's say in our story that everything has been great and perfect. It's saying, you know what? It's being honest.
Yep.
I'll even take the word humility. Humility doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, it's the lowest thing ever. Now, humility comes from the root HUM, which means ground. And we might think, oh, that's really low. But if we say somebody's grounded,
Mm.
what do we mean? We mean they are grounded in reality. So they don't think
Yeah.
too highly or too lowly of themselves, that they are right on with it. So I think, like with our traditions and whatnot, it's taking the good and saying, hey, this is what we need to continue on. This is
Hmm.
what we need to celebrate. But this is also what we need to do away with in order to evolve to be who we need to be right now and in the future.
Oh, that's good.
Thanks
That
for that
is.
question, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley. Joe, thank you for that answer. And then I just want to add to that. It's really breaking that thought pattern that looks for those shortcuts, right? And so I remember when I was younger, we had all of these shortcuts that we used in our thinking. Where if a person is older, that person is better. If a person is
Mm,
older, that person is good. And so we tend to go to the other side. You switch and just go to the
yes.
other spectrum. Well, now if it's old, it's bad. And so instead, I think what we have to do is just ask ourselves, regardless if it's an old tradition or a new one, does it help? Can it help? Or does it harm? Can it harm? And then we navigate that. But I think that's great because that's something I think about a lot, especially around the holidays. You got all of these traditions going on.
Hmm.
And I'm not like I just made a joke recently on my social media that I still listen to Fred Hammond as an atheist. And I mean, I be just loving the music. I was listening to all of it yesterday. But it's also because I'm at a place healthily where those words are not going to trigger me or
Hmm.
anything like that. In the same way, I stopped believing in Santa Claus a long time ago, but I still sing Christmas carols. So I think
Yeah,
there are
yeah.
some older traditions that are out. I think we all know there are some that are harmful. I
Yes.
think we have to become more intentional about all of our tools, period. And just
Yep.
asking, regardless of whether it's an older thing or a new thing, hey, does this harm or does it help?
And to piggyback that really quick,
Yes.
sometimes there are traditions where we need to say we don't need to do that anymore at
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
and we have to know where like that line is.
Yep.
Sometimes there's traditions worth redeeming and carrying on, but
Yep.
sometimes we need to say no. That
Yep.
overall, it's not worth it. Even if there is some good in it,
Yeah.
sometimes it's the better thing is just to say no. That's not
Yep.
overall worth it.
That's it. It's too much harm. It's too much harm.
Yes. Yep.
I
Yep.
love it. I love Man, this has been incredible. This has made my day. I think I told you before we started that my weekends are already feeling a little lighter. You know what I'm saying? Now that we
Good.
got some people in place. But
Yes.
this was beyond light. I felt lifted today. And I really hope that everybody that watched felt the same way. Before I drop you back in the back of the studio, do you have any last words for the people today?
Just overall, thank you for having me, and really, to those of you who are being a part of things, and in whatever way that you can, maybe some of you are more involved, and that's great. I appreciate what you're doing, and maybe some of you, the involvement that you can give is just showing up and being a part of things. Really, just thank you. I really truly believe that values-based community, places and spaces like this is what our society, our culture, and what people need. So thank you for all that you are doing.
Man, I love you so much. I'm going to drop you in the backstage for a minute while I close out the show. I'll talk to you in a few. Everybody, man, please find West Hills United's website. I'm going to make sure I drop it in the description for the people that are watching later. Read up all you can on Joe and West Hill and the work that they're doing. I got to get him back on here for sure. I'm definitely going to get him back on here. And probably next time I'll have him on here and the global campus, because I figured out we can do something with that. So that way he can actually spend some time with our team as well. But this was a wonderful day. Let me hit these announcements real quick before I let y'all go. And let me get my studio set up to see how we're going to close us out today. Got to pick the right soundtrack. You know, music is everything. But if you missed our announcements, we closed out did our first Giving Tuesday this week. And from now on, we're going to do it every second Tuesday of the month is Giving Tuesday for Bridge City members. As you know, we don't hound anybody over tithes or offerings or anything. We ask that people who can give do give. Like if finances is not your strong suit right now, you won't get any pressure from us. But every second Tuesday of the month, as a community, we're going to celebrate giving and we're going to encourage giving because generosity is a gift, right? Generosity is what will empower our ability to keep doing what we're doing and then even accelerate. Like I want to find people just like Joe who have these wonderful passions, these wonderful visions, and I want our community to be able to support them in launching new campuses. So this is beautiful. So Giving Tuesday, if you for everybody who's participated, thank you so much. You'll be getting your email about your mugs this week. And for those of you, it's still Sunday, so the clock don't end until tonight. So if you want that mug, all gifts of $40 or more, you get a really nice mug with our logo on it, with People Matters. It's nice, and it changes colors, or the message shows up as your coffee or your tea is in it. Ain't that nice? You know. Also, we're doing our Thanksgiving food drive all November long. Go donate some food somewhere. Take a picture of you doing it. Share it with our hashtag. To get those details, go to bridgecity.app. I'll perhaps have Ashley to make a video about this because she has all the details. Next week, please be back for next weekend. I'm having another guest, Steve Gadak. See, I said Gadak. I'm not gonna say his last name. I'm gonna let him say it next weekend. But he wrote Humanism from the Heart, and I mean I met him at NanoCon as well. Just an incredible person. I think y'all are gonna love it. And then Bridge City clubs. Our clubs are popping off right now. We're going to be having open house to introduce you to those clubs and those club organizers, and to introduce you to our global campus. You know, so that's going to be from November 30th to December the 7th, and then we're going to close out. Open house week with movie night. And again, this first movie night is a documentary, so this one is for the builders. If you want to see what building a movement looks like from a ground up, we're watching a documentary of 8 families who struck out to start a church in Charlotte, North Carolina, to start a church, and ultimately ended up building what became one of the largest churches in North Carolina. This shows the first 5 years of that journey. And I felt it would be incredible for our team of people who've never seen what that looks like. I'm a church planner by trade, so this is my world. This stuff is second nature to me. You know, I eat, think, and sleep it. But most people have never been introduced to this. Documentary is a great way to do that. All right, I think that's all the announcements I have. Again, if you want to support Bridge City and the work that we do, it's still the week of Giving Tuesday. You can hit that. I'm trying to get my hand over there. There it is. You can hit that QR code right there, and you can support. And for those of you who are members of Bridge City and you're trying to figure out how to get connected and how to get involved, bridgecity.app is our official global campus. It's almost like being right there with each other. We're still building some things out, but that's where I need to see you. Get in there and introduce yourself so we know that you're in there, and we're going to put you to work. All right. I love y'all so much. Let's pick something to close out with, man. If y'all please make sure y'all leave y'all comments on this, right? I love the activity in the chat. Make sure you come and leave your comments on this so other people know that today's conversation was incredible. People missed out. I'm gonna let y'all go with some hip hop today. I love y'all. Until next time, keep rising and be the bridge.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said, let him cook.
Welcome to the makings of a madman. Mad men get shit done, it's a passion. Has-beens can't get close to my lab, man. Since I stopped feeding these suckers, they fast. And this is the reason that I move so fast, man. Rewrote the story and threw out the cast. Fuck all the credit, man, I want the cash. I am the running man, you in the past. Too far ahead of you, you cannot see me. I'm stronger and better, you slept on your Wheaties. I got it together, you fall into pieces. I should be calling you racist. It should be illegal to teach this, but somebody dared me to do it. So I said, well, damn, I'ma do it. That somebody was me, mad.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said, let him cook.
Welcome to the makings of a madman. Mad men get shit done, it's a passion. Has-beens can't get close to my lab, man. Since I stopped feeding these suckers, they fast. And this is the reason that I move so fast. Rewrote the story and threw out the cast. Fuck all the credit, man, I want the cash. I am the running man, you in the past. Too far ahead of you, you cannot see me. I'm stronger and better, you slept on your Wheaties. I got it together, you fall into pieces. I should be calling you racist. It should be illegal to teach this, but somebody dared me to do it. So I said, well, damn, I'ma do it. That somebody was me, mad.